So why is this all important? We have this magical puzzle with all these amazing pieces and details that they have to all come together for the students to be able to use language. We want them to use this language. What's oftentimes an issue, and it's not with malintent, but what's often an issue is we don't give the kids enough detail through an objective every day to say this is what we're going to do. Language objectives. Are you ready? I'm a little scared. Okay? I need you guys to think of a skill, not school related. And it has to be a skill that's a little edgy, like skydiving, or surfing with a great white shark, or, I don't know, bungee jumping, scuba diving. Who has a skill that you want to tell me about, or that you think is really cool? Hiking up the Appalachian Trail, like the whole thing. It's only 2,000 miles. Walk in the woods. Anybody want to volunteer like a skill? Okay. What is it? School bus race driving. Let's do that one. Yes! Luis gets the prize. There's no prize really, but you get the prize. Okay, so it's exciting, right? So let's pretend, and this is a big pretend, that I'm the instructor for that class. I'm going to teach you how to race a school bus. And when you come to my class today, I just tell you, hey guys, by the end of the day today, see that thing over there on the wall? That's a poster like of these school buses and they're racing. See the picture? That's my visual. And I posted that because my boss, we all know who that is, right? The principal, said, I have to post this poster. When you guys leave today, you're going to know how to race this school bus. That's our objective. You're going to learn it. You're going to do it. Okay? So there, I told you. That's the objective. Cool, let's go do it. And you're sitting there going, huh? Because there's like a whole lot of details in between this is what we're doing and how do I actually do that. Like I'm supposed to tell you, I don't have to tell you, well, maybe I have to tell some of you, like maybe Carlos in the back. Here's the key. The key goes in the ignition. Some people need, just kidding, some people need that level of specificity. But overall, you want to give people some steps. Like, okay, for the first hour, we're going to talk about ignition and the gas and what kind of gas you need to use. And after that, we're going to talk about how fast you should go and how fast you shouldn't go so that you don't like wipe out in the curves because the school bus might tip a little differently than a race car. You see how this is like, you need some detail. Because if I just tell Luis, well, maybe you might be able to pull this off. If I just say, here's the key, go do it, I'll be over here on the sidelines. I'll dial 911 if anything happens. Just put your foot on the pedal, Luis, and go. That maybe isn't enough detail about how to learn how to drive and race the school bus. We have to be able to come up with and tell our students about some really specific language objectives. Now here's where I often get a lot of pushback, and I can live with it because I'm used to it. I won't like it, but I can live with it. And you don't have to like it either. But I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind, okay? So we have these domains of language, and that cartoon is my brain. Isn't he cool, or she? I don't know. Isn't it cool? And the brain is like lifting weights because we have brains. We have to use our brains to keep them strong and build them. We have 4 domains of language. Some would argue 5, maybe 5.5, that are all working together but in different ways. So the domains of language that we're used to hearing about are speaking, writing, reading, and listening. This is a new acronym, SWIRL. Thank you very much, Andrea. We love this acronym. 2 of those are productive, meaning there's output, and 2 of them are receptive, meaning information is coming in. So which 2 are productive? Speaking and writing. Which 2 are receptive? Reading and listening. Incoming information. All of them require this notion of thinking, and arguably we would say all of them require interaction. Because the more you interact, the more you practice, the more you develop all of these domains. It's really important to help. You might want to like make a notation here. You don't have to, but this is like this is going to be on the exam. Don't you love it when teachers tell you that? There's no exam, but this is an important detail. So we ask teachers to have activities in their lessons every day that incorporate all of these domains of language. We want that. That does not change. What changes a little bit with having a specific language objective is that you as the teacher and you as the learner are going to focus on measuring 1 or 2 domains at a time, because that is manageable. It doesn't mean that you have a lesson that only focuses on this domain. All the other domains are there, but when you're learning a new skill, it's important to focus on one aspect of that skill at a time. Which is also another justification. I say justification rather than argument, because that like has some negative thoughts in it. It's another justification for having a really specific language objective every day. But I post weekly objectives. Okay, but then we'll talk about that later. Okay, we're going to try to help you modify that a little bit. So now, is there anyone in the room, and please don't be shy, who doesn't see color? Anyone who's colorblind? Because I have had that before. I learned the hard way. Okay, so I'm going to try to translate this for you. We have 4 colors here. Also not a bad thing to write down. We have turquoise, which is going to be connected to a language function. Can anybody remember an example of a language function from like a few minutes ago? Sequence. Another one? Analyze. Persuade. Cause and effect. Predict. Awesome. We're going to tie this to this color orchid. I like the color orchid. We're going to tie a language function to that concept, the WIDA concept of features of academic language. The brick, the wall, the house. Content stem, green. I picked that because I love science. And language supports, purple, grape. Grape jelly, like the color of your jacket. I love that. It's your school colors? Awesome. Okay, so we have these elements. We have language functions that are connected to language features, right? We have a content stem and we have supports. So there are these elements. People ask us all the time, so where do these language objectives come from? Can I just have like a random bank of these so that when my principal comes to the room, I can just have one showing? Well, you could do that. You're in compliance, but it may not actually help the kids. It's a combination of things. The objectives have to come from standards. That's kind of a given. They come from WIDA standards, and they come from the content standards, Common Core and North Carolina Central Standards. But also they come from the students' needs. And we're going to talk about that more in depth in a second when I show you how this language objective comes together with all these elements. So if your class is doing really well, for example, with their usage of past tense verbs, you may not need a language objective that focuses on past tense verbs, even though that could be a really great objective. But that's a skill maybe that they're really good, oh, they're okay with that. Every person in this room can say at the beginning of the year, 2 months after the beginning of the year, right after winter break, and in May, before the test, where your students are still struggling. I know every person in here can say, I don't know, like an example, my kids still, they don't get adjectives that end in blah, blah, blah. Or they can't differentiate between an adjective and an adverb yet. Tell me something that you think you see a pattern with or have seen a pattern with in your classroom. What language do kids struggle with? Yes. Figurative.
Telling the difference between the theirs, there.
Oh, perfect example. So really specific stuff. Figurative language, there, yes. Prepositions. Sentence structure. Great examples. I want you to remember those, okay? Because that's based on what those kids need. So you would have language objectives that address those areas. Okay. Here are the pieces to this magical puzzle. The basic question is, and what we're going to answer is, what language do the students need to get to the learning on a daily basis? And what does that academic language look like, sound like? What are the student outcomes going to be? We have to help us all get to this level of specificity because it's really what the kids need. And which domains of the language are tied to these student outcomes? We're going to think about evidence more tomorrow, but I just wanted to cue you with that. Content stems come from our North Carolina standards. Sometimes these are connected to themes and topics that go across the content areas. In some schools, they pick monthly themes. In some schools, there's a theme that goes with a particular unit. And language supports. What will you have in place, because you will have stuff in place, that makes it so all proficiency levels can swim in that pool that we talked about yesterday. And they want to get to the deep end, which is the deep content stuff, and be safe and have fun. It's important to remember that you need to have a selection of supports. You know, think about that thing we talked about with the swimming pool. There are lots of options available, and as a student's needs change, they need to know the purpose of the support and which one they should choose depending on what skill they're going to practice. But you don't want to just say, well, here, I gave you guys floaties, and no matter what you're going to do in the swimming pool, you have your floaties, so make it work. That's your support, right? So here's a quick reminder of some of those supports that we talked about yesterday. The kickboard, I don't think we talked about a life vest, but that was a good one. A teacher, having swimming buddies, really important.